This is Join Us in France, episode 174. This episode is brought to you by Patreon supporters and Addicted to France, the tour company that specializes in small group tours and custom tours in France. The Black Friday 24-hour discount is coming right up, and it will be running during U.S. business hours. If you've been dying for a wonderful tour to Paris or Normandy, this is your chance to grab it at a great discount. Visit addictedtofrance.com and enter your discount code. Join us on Black Friday. On today's episode, Matthew Gamache takes us to Collioure, a lovely beach town at the very bottom of France, next to Spain. Let me say that word again. Collioure, Collioure. It's kind of hard to say for foreigners. It's spelled C-O-L-L-I-O-U-R-E. And it kind of looks like the French Riviera, because it's rocky and picturesque, and it's a small village by the sea. It's really lovely. But being far away from the Riviera, Collioure is not as pricey or as exclusive. There are a lot of beach towns between Montpellier and the Spanish border. Most of them you've never heard of because they only attract French families. The one I went to all the time as a kid is called Valras plage. It's next to Béziers. It's a nice, long, sandy beach. There are playgrounds on the beach. There are free concerts several times a week during the summer. It has everything a working-class French family on vacation wanted. And I had a great time there as a kid because kids, they don't care if it's scenic or not. They want the beach because they love the sand, the water, the sun. And you'll hear Matt describe how his daughters loved that part of the vacation. But the reality is, grown-ups, especially foreign visitors, they want to go somewhere scenic. And so Collioure has all of that. The other thing that Collioure has going for it is that it's really close to Spain. And so if you want to go visit Catalunia a little bit, actually, technically, Collioure is in Catalunia, but it's in the French part. But if you wanted to go visit the Spanish part of Catalunia, you'd be right there. From Collioure, you could take a day trip to Cadaqués in Spain. That's also extremely scenic, very exclusive. This is where Salvador Dali, the painter, lived. You could also go to Figueras to see the Dali Museum. You could go all the way down to Barcelona and visit that lovely city. So Collioure is a lovely destination for people who want to go to the beach and also do day trips into Catalunya. The email newsletter this week will go out early on Black Friday instead of Saturday to remind you of the magic discount code, which is again, quote, join us on Black Friday, close quote. You don't have to put the quotes. But discount or no discount, the folks who've come on these tours have all loved them, and we would love to meet you in real life. And now here's the interview. So this is part 2 of our conversation about your 2017 trip. You did 3 weeks, went from Brittany all the way down to Perpignan, Collioure, and did this driving with your wife and your 2 daughters, and you had a great time. And in the previous episode with you, we talked about your trip to the part of your trip that was in Normandy, your arrival in Paris and your Normandy. And now we're going to talk about Dordogne and what you did in the Pyrenees.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, so we left the Gulf of Morbihan. That's where we left off last episode, and we drove south, mainly along the autoroute to the Dordogne.
Right. So you took the toll roads.
We did, and we went through both Nantes and Bordeaux, and then headed east.
How did you deal with the credit cards? Did they take your credit card?
I'd say at the tolls, I bet 20% of the booths took my card.
Yeah.
So we always went to the ones that they accepted cash as well, just in case.
Okay, so when you pull up, try if they don't have. Okay, there's some where you can see they've drawn coins over the kind of. You have the road, and above it you have arrows and different booths, right? As you pull up to a booth, choose one that has coins if you can, and if you don't have that, choose one that has a green arrow. Those are the ones that have the most chance of taking either your cash or your American card. Okay.
Yep. So it was a fine drive. It was long. I think it was 6 hours or maybe a little bit more, but it was a fine drive. We stopped at a rest stop along the way, which I thought was great. I think in general, the rest stops in France are awesome. The food's good. It's really relaxing.
That's bizarre. You like the rest stops.
I think they're great.
It's true that they always have like a little bit of local wine, local candy, local little things, and food is not too bad for rest stop food.
Yeah, I think the food's great.
It's better it's better than a hot dog, you know.
Yeah. I think so far in my life we've now had I think 4 rest stop meals in France, and they've all been top notch.
That's funny. And then you have French people complaining, "Oh, this is crap."
Yeah. No, I honestly
they haven't tried French. They haven't tried American.
Yeah, I would seek out rest stop food if it was here. Although, what can I say? Funny. I'm the guy who goes to France and comes back talking about the rest stop food.
That's all right. That's my kind of person.
Yeah. So to me, on these driving days, I just want to do it. There's some thought of, well, maybe you should get off the highway somewhere, see a site, go to a restaurant somewhere. I'm like, no, the rest stops are great. That's my go-to. Let's just get there as fast as we can.
I agree.
So we got to our house in Baynac. So this is the same house we stayed in 2015. And honestly, it's one of my favorite places in the world. It's so nice.
Very good.
It's got this beautiful deck, a nice grill, big. You got everything we need inside. It's just a very relaxing place, and it overlooks a farm, and super. So we're happy to return, and the owners are awesome. We knew them from previous time stay, and we got to do a lot of chit chat and very friendly people.
That's good.
And one of the things that was going on when we were in Baynac was that the Tour de France was set to come through the next week. So everyone was preparing. They had redone the whole road. They had redone the walkway on the side of the road and kind of made it look much nicer. And everyone was pretty excited about that. There were signs everywhere about the Tour de France, like homemade signs in people's front yards. So. Oh,
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the Tour de France come through my area as well. Nobody made a homemade sign. But of course, this is Dordogne, where in Dordogne, they get so much tourism and so much income from tourism that they really pay attention to these types of things. Where I am, we don't get any tourists pretty much. So we're like, who cares? Tour de France is coming. You might go and look at it and clap for them or whatever, but nobody gets that excited.
Yeah. I should know. So the Dordogne is my favorite region in France, I would say. It's the only region I've spent 2 weeks in. And when you read a lot about it, there's a lot of people who are kind of like, well, it's really crowded, or it's really, it's got too many tourists in these things.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true. But I want to say I've been there in the last week of June, and then this year it was the first week of July. And I would not classify the region as crowded at all during those weeks. Now, that's before French schools get out.
Right, because French schools get out. This year it was officially like the 7th of July or something crazy like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I just want to put out, it's not ubiquitously crowded. I'm sure there are weeks where it's mobbed, but when we were there, I mean, we wouldn't really say it was crowded at all.
Yeah, long weekends are going to be crowded. Long weekends for French people. French school vacations are going to be worse. Yeah, there are times of the year where weekends in general will have more people than the rest of the week. But yeah, compared to Paris, it's nothing anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
We did a number of things that we did in 2015. So I'm not going to go over those. So we canoed on the river. We did a lot of swimming. We did a couple sites that we did previously. We went to Gouffre de Padarac and Forêt de Sang. So those are all So those are all things that we did last time.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Well, Forêt de Singe is funny to me because I've been so many times. My sister is monkey. She's monkey crazy, but she always sneaks in food from home. And these monkeys, they're used to just popcorn, right? When you walk in, they give you a bag of popcorn to give to the monkeys. That's what they get fed. And if you give them anything else, they get excited and they get aggressive. Like they want they can totally smell that you have something else on you. So don't go in there with anything else but the popcorn, okay? Or you'll get assaulted by seemingly friendly monkeys. They don't get so friendly when you have other foods. So don't do it.
Yeah, they're friendly with the popcorn. So
yes. Yeah, because they're blasé with the popcorn. They've had it all their lives. They're like, all right, I'll have some of that. Bring in cheese, and it's a fight. They're all fighting for a bit of cheese.
Yeah. So that stuff was repeats from 2015, and we loved it. It was great. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about some of the new stuff that we did that we didn't get to last time. So particularly, last time we went to Lascaux 2 and the Rock of St. Christopher.
Yes.
So we really liked the caves. So this trip, we tried to see more caves.
Yes.
So we booked Font de Gomme.
Yes. That's cool.
As early as we could. So I actually got the tickets on January 1st when it became available.
That was really smart because it's hard to get them.
And got the English tour and everything.
Excellent.
And so we went there and we went to the Grotte du Ruffignac.
Yep.
So we did both of those two. And I thought
now, Ruffignac is the one with the train, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that one was okay. I don't know. I thought it was okay, but come on. They need to.
No, I'm curious. What did you think? Why didn't you like that one as much as the other ones? I didn't either, but I'm curious about your opinion.
Well, because you can't see very much. And they insist on no pictures, but there's hardly anything to take pictures of in there. And the couple of things that would have been cool if they had just let me take a second and do a proper, it's dark in a cave like that. So you can't take photos unless you have permission, because if you set up a tripod or something, they'll see you,
Sure, yeah.
So, I was disappointed by that. I mean, the guy who was running the train was very friendly and all that, but I could pass.
Yeah. I liked it just fine, but honestly, mainly because of the train.
Oh, you like trains?
I like being underground in a train. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But we were on a French tour. So, and he did not do any English, so that was a little bit harder to understand. And it was one of those, we saw everything, then we went back and read about it and said, oh, okay, that would make sense.
Yeah. And it's kind of a cool train because it's not really a train. It's more like open benches on rail tracks, and it can go forward and backwards or whatever. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Font de Gomme was awesome, though.
Font de Gomme, I'm sure, is awesome. I tried to get in, I couldn't, so I'm bitter about that too. But I'll get there. When we do the tour in September 2018 with the group, we'll definitely go there because I'm going to buy the tickets in advance, and I'll try to get there before because, I want to see it by myself.
It was one of the most amazing things I've really seen. It's the difference there is that it's original paintings, unlike Lascaux, and it's in color, unlike just about all the caves.
Right. Yes, Lascaux and Font de Gomme were both painted in color around 20,000 years ago. And Lascaux, you see a reproduction. It's a wicked good reproduction, but it's a reproduction. But Font de Gomme, you get in and see the actual ancient cave.
That's right. And the tour guide was outstanding, by the way. I mean, she was, an archaeologist and spoke English and just really, more than probably the other ones that we've seen, really brought out the art in a way that was engaging for all of us. I thought it was fantastic.
That's great.
So great experience. So beyond that, what I want to talk about in the Dordogne is the food. So this is our second trip there, so we were like prepared. We knew what we liked, and we got right to it. But in Baynac, there's a butcher and a bakery right in town that's fantastic. And we went to the St. Cyprian market on Sunday right after we got there and got a bunch of stuff from the market. And we just had like the best eating week of our lives. It was so good.
And you were cooking the whole time, right?
Cooking the whole time, mainly barbecuing, actually.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So we had the pork is incredible. So we had pork ribs, pork cutlets, sausages, duck legs, all kinds of pastries from the patisserie. The Bergerac wine is incredible.
Ah, yes.
I like it a lot. I'm not a wine expert, but for my money, I'll take the Bergerac wine you can get from the markets at 3 for $14 over just about anything.
3 bottles for €14?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's not a spendy wine.
No, and it's fantastic. And I think basically they have 3 kinds, from what I can tell. They have rosé, which is probably the best rosé I've ever had. They have a sweet white, a dry white, and a red. The red to me tastes like Bordeaux type stuff. But the sweet white and the rosé I thought were uniquely outstanding.
Huh. Well, I'm gonna have to try it. I have a bottle of red Bergerac waiting for me, but just the red. So, but you're right; it's very close to Bordeaux. So, yeah, it would be similar style of wine as Bordeaux.
Mm-hmm. And one thing we like to do there is make Kiers. Is that how you pronounce it?
The Kier, yes, Kier.
Yep. So with the sweet white from Bergerac, it just paired very well and made a very nice Kier.
Yeah, so Kier is crème de something. So it's a kind of a brandy, but it's a sweet brandy. And it's a fruit sweet brandy of some sort. It's usually crème de cassis. So cassis is what? Is like blackcurrants, I think?
Yes. Yep. Currant. Yep.
And then a white wine on top, or a champagne, or a bubbly of some sort.
Mm-hmm. And in Brittany they use cider instead of
yes.
wine. So.
That makes sense. Sense.
Yep.
Use what you got.
Exactly. So the food is great, and I feel like being able to go to the butcher and cook on your own, and especially having access to a barbecue, I felt that all kind of enhanced the trip in a very good way.
Well, especially if you have a child with allergies, it's really much safer to make your own food. You can control things way better.
Yes, that's right. And at the end of the day of sightseeing, you don't necessarily want to go to a restaurant every night because it takes work to go to a restaurant and sit there with the kids. I mean, if it's just me and my wife, it would be one thing, but it's more relaxing to chill out at home.
Yeah, and then the kids can goof off with their iPads or whatever it is they do these days, and you get some peace. Yeah,
that's right.
I get that.
So last time we did not go to Sarlat because it was 105 degrees every day, and we just didn't want to go. So this time we did. So we went for the Wednesday market, and I have to say that I guess it didn't really occur to me, but the market's kind of the same. Whether you go to St. Cyprian on Sunday or Sarlat on Wednesday, it's the same people. Yes.
Okay. This is very important. Markets, to be a vendor in a market, you have to have a permit, and you have to have a permit for a specific city. And so most of these people do this. It's their profession. They do this every day. They go to a different market in their region every day. And so from one market to the other, you will find the same vendors, depending on what day of the week you go. So it's kind of silly when I see guidebooks that insist, you must go to the market on this day in this town. I'm like, well, or you could go the next day in the other town because it's the same people.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly the same scenery or whatever, but it's the same people essentially. So, when you're in Provence, like around my area, the vendors, and I know some that this is their profession, they go, obviously they have 7 days. They usually take a day or two off. So they have 4 or 5 or 6 markets that they have agreements with. And so they go maybe 50, 60 kilometers away, from home. And that's it. But then at any given market, you will see the same vendors over and over again. So no need to go see every market in a tiny area because you'll see the same people.
That's right. So I guess if I were to do it again, I probably would have gone to Lascaux 4 during the day and then going to Sarlat in the evening. But live and learn.
Yes. Lascaux 4 is absolutely a gem. I rebuke you for not going.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you'll come back and we'll experience it. It's a really good one. Very, very good. And Sarlat is a lovely town, but it can be crowded. It can get hot. It's a good place. I think it would be a good choice to stay at if you're going to go around various places in the Dordogne. Sarlat would be a good place to stay because then you go back in the evening to Sarlat. You get to have the place to yourself. Not too many tourists at those hours. You enjoy the first hours of the morning. I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're in a hotel or a bed and breakfast. I think Sarlat would be a good place. If you have your own home, then one of the drawbacks of Sarlat is there's no river. Some of these other places like Baynac are on the river. So
good point. Good point.
So like if you're gonna cook your meal and then go for a walk along the river, Baynac was a great place for us to do that.
Baynac or Rouffignac right by Lascaux 4, mind you, has also a very nice river walk.
So that's pretty much what I want to talk about from that week. It was a lovely week. Definitely different feel going back to it for a second time than the first time. But it was nice. So what we did is it was a 7-day rental, but we decided instead of spending the full 7 days, we decided this ahead of time that we were going to take the last day and we were going to leave one day early and we were going to drive to Foix and we were going to see the Grotte de Nio.
Ah, yes. Another painted cave, but this one in the Pyrenees.
That's right. And this is solely based on recommendations that came from Join Us in France. From yourself and others who have been. And it's a great recommendation. It's a great place. And it's definitely off the beaten path.
Oh, yeah. Well, now that you've seen Fond de Gomme, you can compare them a little bit. They're not at all similar, are they?
No, they're my two favorites by far. Mainly because I'm just a sucker for seeing the original. I thought Lascaux 2 was really cool, but you're kind of in the back of your head that this is a reproduction, which is a little bit hard to shake. But it's still cool. But Nio and Fond de Gomme were both like my favorites. Yeah. So Nio is different because you walk for a kilometer underground, and you see the cave art, which is fantastic. And what's really cool about the cave art is in this big amphitheater is not the right word, but it's kind of huge opening at the end, right?
Yes. There's a big I don't know. It's the size of a church, maybe, kind of a high ceiling, and
that's right. Yeah. So the art's kind of like in the round, and it's clearly like a big gathering place for lots of people.
Yes.
So there's that. But the other thing is that as you're walking, you're seeing lots of interesting things. Like you're seeing all this graffiti from like 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Which in and of itself is pretty fascinating, like this ornate cursive graffiti dated 1652 and stuff. Yes.
I think the oldest one that they authenticated at Nio is 1604 or 1602 or something like that. They actually did carbon dating on that. And it is. Well, no, it's not carbon. They did something else. I can't remember what. It wasn't carbon dating, but they do know that it's a real signature from those days. So people have been visiting those caves for a long time. It's just that they had no idea what they were looking at. They didn't know how old it really was.
Well, it's hard to see because you can't light up the whole thing if you're in 1604, right?
That's true.
It's not like you can say, "Oh, there's a bull, there's a horse, whatever." You can only see little splotches. So
yes, that's true. But even today, there's people who go, "How do they know that it's that old?"
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So on your show, you talked about accessibility and things like that, and I can say 7-year-old and 11-year-olds did fine. It's more or less just walking with a couple of little steep bits.
Yeah, and Neo is it's one where they give you a handheld flashlight, and then when you arrive at the end in 2 points, you put down the flashlight, and everybody turns off the flashlight. They let your eyes get used to the darkness for a few seconds, and then they turn on LED lights. And that's impressive. You know, I always love that part. I must have been to Neo 10 times. I don't know. I probably could be a tour guide in there.
Sure, yeah.
But it's very, very fun. It's one of those. I get I don't know. I get goosebumps every time because I'm like, that old. There were people that long ago, and they wanted to do art. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
I think it's totally wild.
Yeah.
So we spent that night in Foix at a bed and breakfast that was recommended on one of your podcasts. I think it was 114. It was a trip report.
Yep.
A place
Jennifer Ditchburn.
That's right. Yep. So it's a place called Sur-et-Pyrénées that had a pool and a trampoline and a really friendly host. And our kids loved it because they had a pool and a trampoline, and it was hot. That was the hottest day of the trip. So I think it just hit 100 degrees that day. But that was the only hot day of the entire trip, and we happened to have a pool. So
excellent.
What better way to spend a day than in a cave, in an air-conditioned car, and a pool?
Exactly. And then your B&B had AC as well?
No, but it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a lovely day, and that was one of the kids' favorite days of the trip. I liked it too, but they called it out as particularly lovely.
Yeah.
As they had a good time. And it was funny. I was planning on going out to dinner that night, but I realized there was no way if I took those kids out of the pool, they were going to kill me. So I just went to the Intermarché and bought a bunch of things, and came back, and lo and behold, one of the things I got, which showed up for the first time in France, was a carton of gazpacho.
Ah, yeah, gazpacho, the kind of cold soup, cold tomato soup, Spanish style.
That's right. So they sell it by the quart, I guess.
Yeah, it's a liter, so yeah, it would be a quart, more or less.
Yeah, so my daughter, Alice, loved this stuff so much. We went through 11 liters of it over the rest of the trip.
That's cute. It's very good. It's a tomato juice, but it's nothing like V8.
Oh my goodness, V8 is disgusting, and this is this stuff is. I could drink it every meal or eat it every meal, whatever you want to call it. But
we often have a glass of that in the evening because it's so refreshing, and it's vegetables. I mean, it's good for you.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
There's some olive oil in it too, but not that much.
Yeah, it's like tomato, garlic, and olive oil, right? And some spices. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. So then from there, we left for Collioure.
Collioure, yes.
Collioure. So as we said, the point of Collioure was to find a lovely Mediterranean town that we could have kind of a beach week at.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was uniquely lovely. It was very nice.
Yeah.
We had an apartment that had air conditioning and a terrace, and we got parking, and the town, which is, it's a tourist town, but it didn't feel overly crowded. I think because it kind of fills up because it's like a capacity of the town about how many cars can be parked and things like that. So it didn't feel overwhelming at all.
Yeah.
And I think it had 4 beaches, but only one that was like a sandier beach, and that's where we hung out most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
At night and the evenings, it was totally lovely. There's nothing like being on the Mediterranean, in a Mediterranean town like this, in the evenings, where you've got that nice breeze, and it's 80 something degrees, and there's always something going on. So this is Catalonia.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for some background. Collioure is about 15 kilometers from the Spanish border.
Right.
In a region which I guess is classified many different ways. So technically it's Roussillon,
yes.
but it's also Catalonia.
Yes.
And it's also part of the Languedoc. Is that all true?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So the old okay, the oldest destination out of all of these is Catalan country. Because Catalan as a language and as a culture is much older than France or Spain. So Spain got the largest chunk of Catalunya, but France got a little bit. And so these people, they speak the same language as on the other side of the border, but they also speak French and Spanish, but their language is Catalan. And they have culinary traditions, and one of the things that Catalan people do is they do these human towers, where they climb, and you have the heavy people on the bottom, and then you have lighter and lighter and lighter, and at the top it's a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. And it's kind of scary to watch, but they do it on both sides of Catalan country, both in France and in Spain. Now, Languedoc and Roussillon are names that are much later. Roussillon is actually a little further north, and Languedoc is that whole stretch along the Mediterranean. But those are newer designations. They have to do with France. So I call it Catalan country, I don't know.
Well, that's what it certainly identifies as, because you see Catalan flags everywhere, and everything can be, all the food is Catalan style, and it's cool. The bread's different. It's a completely different eating situation than the Dordogne, for sure.
Yeah, you have more tapas, you have more cured hams, you have more, anchovy, gazpacho, vermouth is a drink, is a local drink. Anyway, you have more of that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we pretty much, it was anchovies, tapenade, gazpacho. That's pretty much the diet for the week, which I could just live on my whole life. It's really great.
You didn't try the octopus?
I can't find it anywhere. All right, so this gets to I have several questions about France, and this is one of them. Why can't I get octopus in Collioure, and why can't I get anchovies outside of Collioure? It's the same sea, right?
Yeah, you can probably get octopus in Collioure. You just didn't know what it was called.
I looked.
You looked?
Yes. Huh. I looked at the restaurants, and I looked at the all the seafood shops.
I'm surprised because I can find it anywhere. I mean, I can find it in Toulouse too. But in Toulouse, you have to prepare it yourself. Sometimes restaurants will have it, but not every time.
Yeah, I love octopus. When I've been in other Mediterranean towns, that's pretty much been my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's what I
couldn't find it here. Yeah.
Huh. And then anchovy, the difference. So anchovy can be really, really salty, but in Catalan country, they also sell the fresh anchovy.
Yeah, that's what we ate.
Which is just with a little bit of olive oil on top, and it's so good.
It's fantastic.
It's not super, super salty like what you might have in mind. It's much nicer than that.
They also make this really unique thing, which I assume is not for everybody, but I loved, and it's a anchovy mousse. So it's like brandade, which again you can't get here, but you can get in Provence. But it's like brandade, but instead of using codfish, they use anchovies.
Huh, you couldn't get brandade in Collioure. That's bizarre.
I know. This is what I ask about. And getting back to this like regional, I'll call it regional stubbornness, but not in a bad way. I feel like it's, you're in this region, you get these things, and that's why you do it. But
yeah, I think it can be found, but maybe you have to be a little bit more determined and go a few different places. I don't know. I haven't been to Collioure in so long. I can't really tell you, but.
Well, either way, food is great and had a good time. So the couple of things we did a lot of time on the beach. We did a lot of time hiking in the hills around Collioure, which is all lovely. Took a lot of pictures. It's a very photogenic place.
Yeah.
And then we didn't do much beyond that. So the couple of things we did was we went to the Dalí Museum in Spain. One day, and is it Figueres? Is that how you say it? Figueres, which we actually didn't really like that much. It was very crowded. It was I like Dalí, I like surrealism, and I think the museum would have been very interesting if it wasn't so crowded. And So it goes. I think that it was just too many people for that small space.
Yeah, it is not that big, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They should have stopped selling tickets, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But what can you do? It's easy to get to, though, I'd say. I mean, it took like a half an hour to drive there, and we got to kids got to say they were in Spain.
That's good.
We went to the town called Serret.
Yeah.
And went to their Museum of Modern Art, which was a really awesome museum because it basically featured art from all the artists who lived in the and painted in the region. So we're talking about Henri Matisse and Marc Chagall are the two biggest ones. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice museum because in every painting, it will not only show the painting and the artist, but it will say the years that they lived in the region, where they lived, and usually the paintings were from the region. So I thought it was really cool. And they had a room with, I think, 3 pretty large Marc Chagalls, and that was pretty nice.
Very good. And they probably had some Dali too.
Yeah, so they had a Dali exhibit going.
There you go.
Which was great. And of course, this museum's empty. There's nobody there at all except us.
Yeah. So, that's the problem with... You did the right thing, though, by trying places that are a bit off the beat track, because everybody's heard of the Dali Museum in Figueras, and you can find Dali stuff in other museums nearby that are not as crowded. So, yeah.
Yeah. So glad we did that.
Good call.
I would definitely recommend it. Let's see. And then we wrapped up the week by going to the Aqualand waterslide park. And then we took the train back to Paris. And I'm actually going to have Nora, my 7-year-old daughter, talk about that because she really enjoyed those parts of the trip.
Oh, good.
So I'm going to bring her in. Hold on a minute.
Excellent.
Okay, hold on.
Hello.
Hi, Nora. How are you doing?
Good.
Very nice to talk to you. So, how old are you, Nora?
I'm 7.
You're 7. And was this your second time in France?
Yes.
Excellent. So, Nora, you liked the Aqualand water park, I hear.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Sure. It was really fun, and we went on almost all of the water slides,
Uh-huh.
including a pool.
Yes. Were there some scary slides?
Yeah. One of them was called the Navigate Space Rider, and it went, really fast down.
Yeah.
And that one was really fun. We went on it twice.
Cool. Were there a lot of people?
Yeah. That one had a very long line.
Oh, how long?
If you check there every now and then, it would be halfway. But if you a lot of people come in the afternoon.
Yes.
So I would recommend going in the morning.
Morning is better. Oh, that's good to know. So that was your favorite one, huh?
Yeah.
So did your daddy wear a Speedo again?
Yes.
Ah, good. He learned. He wore a Speedo on that one.
Yeah.
Very good. Tell me, did you like the ice cream in France?
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
Well, there was this one flavor. I liked these 2 I like 3 of the flavors a lot. There was a really good chocolate.
Yeah.
And a coffee and a raspberry.
You like the coffee?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice. Daring for a 7-year-old. Very good. I think your daddy liked the hazelnut.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's what he put in his notes. So how do you like coming to France? Is it a good place for a vacation for a kid?
Yes.
Yes? Why?
There's a lot of fun things to do and a lot of new things to eat and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. And did you get to play with some French kids while you were over here?
Yes, I did get to play with some French kids at Foix.
Oh, how did you meet them?
When we were swimming in the pool, they came out.
Ah, very good. Very good. French kids are friendly,
Yes.
but you couldn't talk to them, right?
Yeah, they spoke English too.
Oh, they spoke English. Excellent. Very good English or kind of not so good English?
It was fine.
It was fine. Okay. Are you going to learn French, do you think?
I don't know.
You can say foi really well.
Thank you.
I think you could learn it. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Nora. And could you put your dad back on, please?
Sure.
Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Oh, she's cute.
Yeah.
So that was your last day, right?
That was, our last day. Or actually, our last day was Bastille Day, which was another beach day, and we saw some of the goings on there. There were some bands playing, not too different from the other days.
So Bastille Days, you just went to the. Was there a military parade or something?
There was a parade. It didn't seem military. It seemed like there was. I don't know, maybe 25 people. It seemed kind of more like politicians walking through the streets with a band than military.
Okay, so maybe, but this was in Collioure, right?
This is in Collioure, yeah.
So it was probably the mayor and his cabinet. Well, what do you call it? No, you don't call them a cabinet. You call them advisors. What are they? Mm-hmm. The mayor has counselors. Counselors! Sure.
But, there's only 12 streets. So they just kind of walked around the streets and with the marching band. And we had our terrace, so we just watched it all from up there.
Oh, very nice.
And then they had live music all night. No fireworks unless it happened after we went to bed. I mean, we went to sleep at 1 a.m. and the fireworks still hadn't happened. So I assume they
didn't have fireworks. No.
So that was it for there. And then the next day we got up early, drove to Perpignan, dropped off the car, and then took the TGV to Gare de Lyon in Paris.
Gare de Lyon in Paris. Wow. And you was that easy to do? How did you get your tickets for the TGV?
So I bought them right when they went on sale through Rail Europe.
Rail Europe. Okay.
So I think it's a 3-month lead time. I think you can get them 3 months ahead of time. So I did that.
Yeah.
But you can't beat it. A 5-hour train ride. The price is good. It's convenient. It's just it's great.
And it's pleasant to be on a train,
Oh yes. It's nice.
I mean, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't want to do that every day, but once in a great while, it's nice.
Yep, it beats driving. That's for sure.
Yeah. You can do a lot more on a train than driving, obviously. That's cool.
Right. And like I said, we got to come home from either Paris or Geneva, so we got to figure out a way to get there. So this was the most direct and best use of our time, I thought.
So what time did you get into Paris?
I think it was about 3:30 when we arrived.
All right.
And we just took a taxi from Gare de Lyon to our hotel in Montparnasse. Okay. And we had a lovely room that fit all of us in a pretty nice hotel. And so we kind of just set our sights low. We just said, what do we want to do? We're just going to go get dinner. And then we're going to walk to the Eiffel Tower. We're going to go up the Eiffel Tower, and then we're going to walk home. And that'll be our night. And
that's good.
It was super fun. We had a lovely dinner in a brasserie that the hotel recommended, and then did the walk. And I had bought the tickets for the Eiffel Tower right when they went on sale. I think that's also a 3-month lead time thing.
Yes.
We went up to the second floor, I guess, and then went up to the top floor.
So because you had your tickets in advance, how long do you think you waited?
0.
Not at all?
I don't know. We went right up to the, is it called the second floor? What's the floor right below the top?
Yeah, second floor. That's it.
Okay. 0 waiting for the second floor. And then to get to the top, we probably had to wait 10 minutes.
That's really, see, buy your tickets in advance, folks. Don't just show up and line up because you're going to be there within 500 or 1,000 other suckers.
There was a lot of people in line.
Yes. So just buy your tickets in advance. Decide when you want to go and buy your tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it was
then
beautiful.
You walked from Eiffel Tower to Montparnasse? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what we said.
Oh, wow.
It was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take.
Yeah, that's a long walk.
Yeah, but and we walked back too. So, but it was fine. That's the first time
patient girls.
Yeah, no, they're great. They like to walk. It was first time in Montparnasse, which the reason why I chose it is because I wanted a place where we could get a quad room at a reasonable price within walking distance of the Eiffel Tower. That's basically all we were looking for, and it was suited us just fine.
Yeah, and you managed.
Yep. And I should note that after the Eiffel Tower, we went and bought souvenirs, and the girls bought a bunch of Eiffel Tower themed souvenirs, and they were loving it. Nora especially wanted me to point that out. So
that's good.
Souvenirs and slushies and pictures of the sparkling Eiffel Tower.
You got to see that. That's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, so you stayed long because the sparkle in July probably doesn't start till 11.
No, it started around 9, I would say.
Really?
Maybe 9, maybe 9:30. Let's see. Well, our reservations.
Well, it's on the hour.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So our reservations were for 7. So if you figure by the time we were done and back on the ground, it was probably 9, somewhere between 9 and 9:30.
So maybe it wasn't pitch dark yet.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. No. All right. Well, that's good to know that it starts before it gets pitch dark. I thought they waited till dark.
No, but that's nice. It's it is definitely crowded around that area, which it comes as a surprise to nobody.
Yeah.
But I was glad that the kids got to see it, and because when we were originally putting this trip together, we were thinking, well, it would be much more convenient if we just flew home from Barcelona, if we could swing a flight that did that. But when we were weighing it, we said, oh, you know what? The kids are going to, they want to see Paris. So, because we've seen so much of France by this point that it'd be a shame for them not to see Paris. So
I agree.
We did that.
I agree. Paris is special. I mean, it's very crowded and very touristy, but there's a good reason for that. They have a lot of fun things to do and see. So I understand with young kids like yours, it's good to see the rest of France as well, because there's more kid-friendly activities outside of Paris. Although there are some in Paris too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it worked out.
And then from Montparnasse, you just got on the TGV. Well, no, you got on the RER to get back to the airport.
No, we took a taxi to Orly because that's where we're flying home from.
You were flying home from Orly?
Yep. So it's Iceland Air. So everything goes through Reykjavik. So basically, you do all your customs and everything in Reykjavik. So once you get to Reykjavik, you're in Europe. So then they fly to places like Orly.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's a nicer airport anyway.
Yeah. I've kind of had my fill of Charles de Gaulle. So I said, well, we have the opportunity to fly out of Orly. Let's take it. Honestly, I didn't really like Orly either,
okay.
But I think maybe that had more to do with Iceland Air than it had to do with Orly itself.
Yeah. Was it not a stellar flight or?
It was. I think the deal is that Iceland Air doesn't have dedicated space in Orly, so you don't start queuing up to check in until like the previous flight has already cleared. Which means that the line is it was just logistically, it was pretty bad. Like we didn't board our flight until 10 minutes before takeoff time.
Oh, wow.
And we got to the airport 3 hours ahead of time. So, but it all works out. But it's just one of those things that seems like it could have been better. But I know.
The annoyance of international travel.
That's right. I mean, and also you get what you pay for. I mean, we fly Iceland Air because it's cheap, and that's what we expected.
So if you don't mind asking, a week's rental in some of these places will run you about how much?
You want to figure around, I'm doing both trips now. You want to figure around $100 a day, $100 a night. Provence was the most expensive. Then going back to 2015. Provence is more challenging because it's like significantly more expensive than the other places. Yeah. To find a rental. But if you take Provence out of the equation, all of them are around $100 a night. And
that's not bad.
No, because if you go to a B&B, you're going to pay more than that to be able to sleep 4 people.
Yeah. 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 B&B is what, $120, $130 per room?
Let's see. So the place we stayed in, the Loire, which is just absolutely outstanding, that was 50 euros per room.
Oh wow, that's a steal.
I know, it's the best place. I can't rave about it more. And let's see, the place we stayed in southern Brittany on the Gulf of Morbihan, that was a suite that fit all four of us, and I think that was 150 euros a night.
Okay, that's more, but okay.
Yeah, but it was right on the Gulf, so we can understand why.
Yeah.
So again, I have to say that the ability to stay in houses and self-cater and the ability to do all that easily online and do the bookings and everything has really changed the way that I think families should view travel or can view travel in Europe. I think it just makes it so much easier and accessible and cheaper, frankly.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much great information. You've whet my appetite to go back to Brittany and see some stuff that I've never seen. Obviously, I mean, Brittany is one of these parts of France where I went a lot as a young teenager, but I haven't been in much. Well, I've been back, but not ever long enough, like for a night or two here and there, but not ever long enough. So thank you very much for sharing all of that.
No problem. My pleasure. It's always great to be on the show, and your show continues to provide me with lots of interesting and useful content for these trips. And it's really is a big part of how I plan and what I choose to do and what I want to learn more about comes from the content of this show.
That's good. And that's why I like to have other people on so much, is because you guys bring so much to it that obviously, you know, between all of us, we've gone on a lot of vacations. If it's just mine, it's not that many, but if it's all of us, it's much more interesting. So thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Au revoir, Matt.
Au revoir.
I sent out a new lunch break French on Monday. It is a story called The Return of Martin Guerre, Le Retour de Martin Guerre, a tragic love story that took place in the 1550s. In this installment of Lunch Break French, I tell you the story in French first, then I go back through it in both French and English. I've been asked many times if I could translate the podcast into French for people who want to practice their French, and that would be a lot more work than I could chew, but Lunch Break French, which is the premium content for Patreon supporters, is exactly that. When you sign up to support the show on Patreon, you get access not only to this latest Lunch Break French, but to all the other ones as well. It's hours of French practice for you eager learners. To join the list of beloved patrons, visit patreon.com and search for Join Us in France. Patreon is Patreon, and there's a link on the show notes and also on joinusinfrance.com/174. For my personal update, on Sunday, my husband and I went to Narbonne, a very pleasant city that it turns out I had never visited before. And we had a fairly recent episode with Elise on this lovely city. It was episode 163. When we recorded the episode, I thought, oh, maybe I have visited it, but I wasn't certain. And walking around the city, I realized no memories of this one at all. So it was a lovely visit. There's a lot more sunshine in Narbonne than in Toulouse, I can tell you that. We left our house and it was all foggy. And as soon as we started heading east towards the Mediterranean, it got sunny. I mean, it still wasn't hot, but it was sunny and lovely. I will post some of my best photos of Narbonne on Instagram. The account there is called Addicted to France, and I post a photo each day. One thing we did in Narbonne is that we had our Sunday lunch at a place called Les Grands Buffets, the Great Buffet. And, you know, I wasn't sure about this place, but it was a gift from somebody very nice. And so we went, and I want to tell you because I think you might be interested too. This is a place that once you go in, it looks like a fancy Las Vegas buffet. Just gorgeous tables, lush tablecloths, wood paneling, lovely lighting. The smell is divine. It's really, really nice once you're inside. But the building itself isn't much to look at. So the entrance of this restaurant is right next to a municipal swimming pool and a bowling alley. When we walked in there, I was like, whoa, where are we going? Anyway, depending on how much wine and, how many drinks you get and all that, you will pay between 35 euros and 55 euros, and it is worth every penny. So what's the big deal? Well, this is a gorgeous all-you-can-eat buffet with all French food and French wine. It's all French. They don't have anything that's not French in there. It was just amazing. All the regional specialties were there. It was just amazing. Like, if you ever wanted to try frog legs, but you don't want to order it at a restaurant, well, you could have just the one there. You could try escargot. You could try steak tartare. You just try a little bit. This is a great place for that. And most of it is made to order. There's some things in chafing dishes as well, but most of it is made to order, and it's really good. My favorite was the Coquille Saint-Jacques, and if you go, don't miss that one. It was absolutely fabulous. And you'll see a lot of people walking away from the place where they make your food to order with the Coquille Saint-Jacques in their plate. It's very nice. There's also a really nice appetizer buffet. There's hams and shrimp and oysters, and the cheese buffet has 50 different cheeses. The dessert buffet is like a dream come true. It looks great and it tastes even better. I mean, I can't possibly describe it all. It was really unbelievable. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like it anywhere else in France. So if you go hungry. It's worse than Thanksgiving. Now, the place is packed on the weekends. Probably not as crazy during the week. But if you want to go, book a couple of months in advance. I'm not kidding. It's that busy. If you want to go on a popular weekend, you need to book even earlier than that. Now, this company is definitely French, and I'm saying that with a little bit of irony because their website isn't great. But I'll put a link to it on joinusinfrance.com/174 so you can find it and make your reservation if you would like. And actually, it's not very far from Collioure, so that would be a good place to stop on your way to Collioure. My Thanksgiving table tomorrow is going to have 18 guests around it. Thankfully, I know my friends and family. They're not super demanding, and we'll all have a good time, even if I mess something up. But I'm hoping to not mess anything major up anyway. And thank you very much for the tips on the gravy, by the way, email subscribers. That was really helpful, and I did mine today. It's in the fridge. It's perfect. I don't have to worry about that at all. The best way to connect with me is email Annie@joinusinfrance.com or leave a voicemail 1-801-806-1015. This is the French tip of the week. For the French tip of the week today, let's keep with the food idea. Let's teach you how to say, I'm very hungry. When do we eat? J'ai très faim. Quand est-ce qu'on mange? J'ai très faim. Quand est-ce qu'on mange? I decided to rename the historical section of the show from Bite of French History to the French History Brief. I think it sounds better, don't you? The French History Brief. So our French History Brief today is the story of something that we've been hearing all too much about in the news recently, both in America and in France, and probably in many other countries. It's about a very powerful man and a woman that he wanted to have a relationship with. The Bite of French History today relates to events that we've seen a lot in the news recently, both in America and in France, and you will understand in a moment. I heard this story on a French radio show called Au cœur de l'histoire, and I just had to share it with you because it is that good. This is the story of a beautiful young Polish woman who met Napoleon in 1807. Napoleon and his army were invading Poland. Nothing surprising there. Napoleon invaded a lot of countries. And in 1807, he was still successful at it. At the time, Poland is being ruled mostly by Russia. And I had mentioned this in episode 79 about the Marie Curie Museum in Paris. She was also Polish originally and also greatly motivated in her life's choices by the fact that Poland was being squeezed by nearby powers, especially Russia. When Napoleon showed up in Poland, he was seen as a potential liberator of the people. Napoleon never held any rallies, but he is going across Poland on his way to Russia, and everywhere they stop, people assemble to welcome him as a liberator. Now, I've heard that phrase, "we will be welcomed as liberators," applied to recent unfortunate events in American history. But in this case, Napoleon was indeed welcomed as a potential liberator by lots of Polish people. On January 1st, 1807, Napoleon stopped in the little town of Blony, B-L-O-N-I-E, in French and English. I'm not sure how they spell that in Polish. It's just to the west of Warsaw. There is a gorgeous 20-year-old Marie Waleska who comes to meet the emperor, along with many of the townspeople. She makes her way through the crowd to talk directly to Napoleon, welcomes him to Poland, and asks him to save them from the oppressing Russians. She speaks fluent French, as did so many educated people in those days. Napoleon notices how well she speaks French and also how gorgeous she is, and he becomes instantly smitten. He is 38 and she is 20. That night, Napoleon meets the notable people in the town, including the beautiful Marie Waleska, who talks to him again about the liberation of Poland. So they have two events that same day where they talk to each other. The next day, Napoleon has to move on towards Russia, and he doesn't remember her name, but he can't stop thinking about her, and he wants to see her again. So Napoleon has a guy... he has a guy to call upon for such business, and his name was Géraud Duroc. Duroc is sent to track down Marie Waleska. Finding her was not easy, but eventually one of the ministers of the Polish government comes to Duroc and says, "I know who she is, I can arrange a meeting." So the minister is also hoping that Napoleon will look favorably upon Poland if he falls in love with a Polish woman, right? To that I say, how naive can you be? Napoleon never set anybody free after conquering them. But, okay, let me continue on with the story. A ball is organized where both the emperor and Marie Waleska are invited, and she shows up at the arm of her husband, Count Waleska. She is dressed plainly for a countess, almost no jewelry, and her husband is ancient. He's in his 70s and she's 20. That's creepy, but I'm not going to digress there either. Okay, so Napoleon starts sending her love notes after this. He likes that she's playing hard to get. She's resolved to never see him again, but he insists. He sends her letters, notes, invites her to dinner, sends her roses. And he's not used to women who turn him down. So the people around Marie, they're all pushing her, to do what has to be done to influence Napoleon. Influential people around Napoleon also intervene to let her know that she has this responsibility towards the emperor. They say, take one for the team. But she resists, and Napoleon is really upset about that. Every time she turns him down, he writes more letters. One day, Marie Walewska is with the emperor because everyone is pushing her to see him again, and he grabs a watch he is wearing, a really expensive item at the time, and crushes it under his foot, and he says, "I will do the same with Poland if you refuse me." So she gives in eventually, and because she doesn't have much of a choice, and also because she doesn't love her husband anyway. And it turns out that once the affair starts, she likes Napoleon quite well. She follows him around for a few months, and she even goes to see him in Elba after he's moved on to another woman. But back to the original story. Marie gets pregnant. That was predictable, right? No birth control at all. And you know what the crazy thing is? Napoleon gets to test an important theory with this affair with Marie Walewska. Napoleon was married to Josephine, right? Josephine had 2 children from a previous marriage. So it was assumed that she wasn't infertile. But Napoleon and Josephine are not getting pregnant, and he feared that he might be the one who's infertile. Another one of Napoleon's mistresses had said she had a baby by Napoleon, but he didn't really trust her. He wasn't sure if she wasn't sleeping around. But with Marie Walewska, he is sure she's not sleeping with anybody else. So this is a great relief. He is not infertile. Josephine is the problem. So by the time Marie Walewska's baby boy is born, Napoleon has moved on to divorce Josephine to marry another mistress of his, Marie-Louise, the highest princess he could find. Napoleon originally married Josephine because she opened a lot of doors for him with revolutionaries. Then he married Marie-Louise, the Duchess of Parma, because she was a lot higher on the aristocracy food chain than lowly Marie Walewska. Napoleon was always a calculating political man. The point I'm trying to make is that this whole story was taken from an autobiography by Marie Walewska, who wrote her own version of these events. But that's not the end of it. Historians, and it's always mostly male historians who get to publish their books. Even today, not as much today, but in the past, you could be sure if it was a history book, it was written by a guy. They contradicted her account to say that no, she was just another loose woman who went after a powerful man because she was hungry for power, and she told the story like that to make herself look innocent, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so I don't know who's telling the truth. You know, I'm just a podcaster and not a research historian, but isn't that just like what's happening today? A woman says that a powerful man put pressure on her to obtain sexual favors, and then you hear from folks who say, not at all, she was looking for it, she wanted his power, you see? These stories are not new, and the way they get played in the news isn't new either. Thank you so much for listening. If you heard something in today's episode that someone you know would enjoy, find this episode on Join Us in France on Facebook and tag them. Next week's episode is going to be about the history of the Mont Saint-Michel with Elise. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2017 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.